We apologize for interrupting your doom scrolling. Now, for some positive leftist news.
Hey everybody, I don't have a green screen again, so I'm just going to put the cool Cosmo thing up in the corner. Hello everybody, it is Tristan filling in as your host for this episode of Positive Leftist News. I'm excited to bring you some awesome stories of activists making a real difference around the world. We've got inspiring tales of people standing up for Palestine, workers asserting their rights, high school students walking out for trans rights, and even a French city letting nature reclaim urban spaces. It's so cool to see folks coming together to fight for justice and build a better world. So grab a seat, get comfy, and let's dive into all the amazing things our fellow humans have been up to lately. Here's your dose of positive leftist news. The global strike for Palestine on April 15th marked the largest series of direct actions in support of Palestine since October 7th, 2023. Activists aimed to shift the movement from symbolic protests to seriously impacting Zionists' economic interests. With over 50 cities worldwide participating in the strike, actions included blockades at ports in Athens, Belfast, Montreal, Halifax, Vancouver, and Melbourne, and road blockades in cities including Chicago and Oakland. In California's Bay Area, activists shut down the Port of Oakland and disabled parking meters with messages against war taxes, writing, "No taxes for war." Similar blockades occurred in Oregon, Philadelphia, and New York. The strike also took aim at corporations supporting Zionism, including weapons manufacturers like Boeing and Elbit, along with their subsidiaries and backers in the UK and US. In that aim, Palestine Action has achieved another significant victory as Elbit Systems was forced to divest its Elite KL factory in Tamworth. The factory, which previously was a major supplier of military equipment to Israel, was sold off after Elbit cited declining profits and increased security costs due to Palestine Action's activism. Palestine Action's actions at the Elite KL site, including vandalism and occupations that decommissioned the factory for weeks, significantly disrupted production. These actions led to substantial financial losses for Elbit, prompting the company to sell the factory. The new owners of Elite KL, identified as Griffin Newco Limited, confirmed their disassociation with Elbit and their decision to cease all arms manufacturing activities. Elite KL has shifted its focus to providing cooling systems for buses and trains. This outcome marks a triumph for sustained, direct action efforts aimed at rendering Elbit's operations financially unsustainable in the UK. A spokesperson for Palestine Action stated, "Each activist who occupied and dismantled Tamworth's Israeli weapons factory did so in order to bring an end to Israel's weapons trade, and to end the profiteering from Palestinian repression. Every defeat Elbit faces is a victory for the Palestinian people. Kicking Elbit out of Tamworth shows once again that direct action is a necessary tactic. It is one which must be utilized and amplified in the face of the Gaza genocide." We will link the support fund for one of the activists involved in actions against arms companies in the UK down in the description there. Spain and Ireland are discussing a collective plan to recognize Palestine as a state. Other European countries such as Slovenia and Malta have also shown support for recognizing Palestine, which could lead the number of EU members recognizing Palestine to increase to 12. Whilst the EU as a body does not recognize Palestine as a state, the tides are turning in support of Palestine. Thousands worldwide rallied for Palestinians at Al-Quds Day, a day of global solidarity with Palestine on the last Friday of Ramadan. Originating in Iran in 1979, this international day opposes Israel's Jerusalem Day and stands in support of Palestine. This year's rallies were among the largest in decades, as they held special significance amid anger over Israel's war on Gaza. Protesters gathered at Lockheed Martin's research campus in Sunnydale, blocking entrances to demonstrate against the company's involvement in Israel's genocide in Gaza. The 135-person coalition consisting of students, teachers, tech workers, and other residents voiced their opposition to the genocide. Lockheed Martin, known as the world's largest weapons manufacturer, supplies Israel with fighter jets, missiles, and surveillance technology, according to organizers. Protesters demanded a cessation of arms sales to Israel and called on Congress and President Biden to push for a permanent ceasefire. Protester Maramia Yensoon issued a statement. "We have gathered here to disrupt Lockheed Martin's operations and demand that the U.S. stop all arms sales to Israel. We urge Congress and Biden to push for a permanent ceasefire and fellow communities to take up calls for ceasefire themselves until Biden acts." A student sit-in at Columbia University, originally calling for the university to divest from firms that profit from Israel's genocide and occupation in Palestine, has spawned a movement that is poised to become the largest anti-imperialist student movement America has seen in decades. Students have now demonstrated at Columbia for a week straight, and solidarity demonstrations have popped up all over the country, including Yale University, New York University, the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, Miami University in Ohio, Temple University in Philadelphia, Stanford University in California, and others. Campus demonstrations are even spreading to France and Spain. Amid the ongoing genocide in Gaza, civil disobedience is one of the more powerful tools that the people have in pressuring leaders to cave to the popular will to end the bloodshed. The usual rogues gallery of state and media personalities have, of course, called the protests anti-Semitic and threats to public safety in a pathetic attempt to distract from Israel's atrocities. As of this recording, protest encampments are facing violent repression from police, but this is completely failing to deter the students. Despite arrests, demonstrators are quickly regrouping in the areas that state forces try and fail to push them out of. The level of violence that the government is bringing to bear on those standing against genocide is proof that they fear this erupting into a mass movement they can no longer control or disregard, which shows that it's working. All solidarity and power to the students. During Red April, Brazil's Landless Rural Workers Movement, MST, hammers home the significance of agrarian reform through actions aimed at occupying land for food production and combating hunger. Red April is a month which includes marches, occupations, training sessions, acts of solidarity, and efforts to oppose land concentration in Brazil. This year's theme, Occupy to Feed Brazil, emphasizes agrarian reform as essential to ensure the production of nutritious food for both rural and urban communities, address hunger, and foster the nation's development across agricultural, social, economic, and political spheres. Despite the federal government's neglect of land allocation for agrarian reform for the third consecutive year, MST remains undeterred in its fight for democratizing land access. Margarita Maria, MST's national leader, stated, "Workers from urban and rural areas will join the debate so we can build a national day with various actions in all Brazilian states. By doing so, we can talk to society that we can only contribute to the fight against hunger if access to land is democratized for everyone living in the countryside." In Para, the day takes on even greater significance at the pedagogical camp for landless youth, Oziel Alves, which every year takes place in the location of those murdered in the struggle for social justice. The camp fosters youth organization and participation in MST's upcoming National Congress. Overall, survivors and activists continue to demand justice and fight against impunity, emphasizing the ongoing struggle for land rights and the importance of preserving historical memory. Argentine unions led by General Confederation of Labor, CGT, have declared a general strike scheduled for May 9th, marking their second major protest against the Milei administration since December 2023. The decision follows a meeting with government officials at Casa Rosada, where the unions expressed dissatisfaction with the economic, social, and political situation. The strike will be supported by other unions, including the Argentine Workers' Central Union, and will follow 2 weeks of national protests against the government austerity measures. These protests included a large demonstration on April 23rd in defense of public universities, which saw about 1 million people take to the streets. This was the response to a massive 70% cut to the budget for universities, which Argentinians wholeheartedly rejected. The CGT plans to further mobilize workers for another march on May 1st, May Day, leading up to the general strike. Héctor Daer, CGT's leader, cited the detrimental impact of price adjustments and tariff increases on wages as reasons for the strike, emphasizing the need to resist austerity measures that disproportionately affect the already disenfranchised working class. All power to the people. Workers at the Regent Park Community Health Centre, RPCHC, in downtown Toronto have emerged victorious after a determined 2-week strike, ratifying a new collective agreement that brings significant improvements. The deal highlights the power of solidarity in achieving fair compensation and respect in the workplace. Key features of the 2-year agreement include wage increases of 4% in the first year and 3.5% in the second year, enhanced benefits, and improved health and safety provisions, particularly focused on psychological safety at work. Moreover, the agreement ensures that any additional funds received by RPCHC from government sources, specifically for wage increases, will be allocated to workers in consultation with the union. RPCHC workers provide vital services including overdose prevention, harm reduction, primary health care, mental health support, and more, making their victory in the new agreement significant for both themselves and their community. Former workers of the 13th Note, a music venue in Glasgow, have emerged victorious in an employment tribunal 9 months after the venue's closure. The tribunal found that the firm Java Crest Limited, which ran the venue, violated trade union laws by trying to dismiss over 20 employees without providing the required 90 days notice. Java Crest Limited, now in liquidation, has been ordered to pay the ex-employees 90 days worth of wages. The closure of the 13th Note came after staff initiated a series of strikes, citing issues with contracts, health and safety, and rodent infestation. Despite claims by the owner, Jacqueline Finessi, that the closure was due to a drastic reduction in revenue caused by union involvement, the tribunal ruled in favor of the workers, highlighting the company's failure to consult with employee representatives on the redundancy process. The workers now hope to take over the venue's lease from the Glasgow City Council and reopen it under new ownership, aiming to create a unionized bar and music venue that prioritizes fair treatment of workers. The Minnesota House has passed a bill to phase out sub-minimum wages for people with disabilities by 2028, aiming to ensure fair pay and equal treatment in the workforce. Currently, under a federal program, employers can pay individuals with physical or mental disabilities significantly less than the federal minimum wage, about $3.50 an hour, which opponents argue is unjust and degrading. Activists also seek to eliminate the lower minimum wage for small businesses, employees under 18, and foreign workers in the hospitality industry, aiming to establish a uniform minimum wage of $10.85 per hour for all employees. Additionally, the bill proposes raising the threshold for annual inflation adjustments, allowing for greater increases in the minimum wage during times of high inflation. PLN will keep an eye on the progress of this vital legislation. High school students at Wichita East exercised their First Amendment rights by staging a walkout on Tuesday to protest anti-transgender legislation. Dozens of students participated in the demonstration, voicing their opposition to Senate Bill 233, which prohibits minors from accessing gender-affirming care. The bill has already passed both the Kansas House and Senate. During the protest, students emphasized the importance of gender-affirming care, expressing concern that the legislation would deny necessary treatment to those who need it. Organized by Miles Wilson, a junior at East High and a member of the transgender community, the protest aimed to raise awareness about the potential harmful impacts of the legislation, including an increased risk of youth transgender suicide. The students stressed the need for support and solidarity with the transgender community, rejecting discrimination and oppression. They urged Governor Kelly to veto the bill, which is currently awaiting approval. Despite facing opposition, the students considered the walkout a success. Wilson said, "I hope that people learn that students of East High are not going to stand for discrimination and oppression, and we support the trans community, and the cis kids here stand in solidarity with the trans community, and the trans community here will not sit back and let people oppress us. We deserve to feel safe in our bodies. We deserve autonomy. We deserve happiness. We deserve to grow up." Germany's parliament has passed a groundbreaking law allowing transgender and non-binary individuals to change their legal documents based on self-identification without the need for expert reports or medical certificates. Under the new law, individuals can simply declare their gender identity at a civil registry office, with options including male, female, or diverse, or choose not to specify a gender at all. This reform aims to streamline the gender recognition process and eliminate invasive procedures that trans people previously faced, such as disclosing personal details and undergoing physical examinations. The move comes amid concerns about an increase in anti-LGBT violence in Germany. Through this victory, Germany joins a growing number of countries that have adopted administrative, legal gender recognition processes based on self-declaration, reflecting international human rights standards and medical consensus. During the 5th People's Health Assembly, PHA, in Mar del Plata, Argentina, health activists emphasized the urgent need to address violence against women as a public health crisis. Discussions at the assembly focused on initiatives by the feminist movement to increase access to healthcare for all and combat patriarchal systems perpetuating violence against women. Local activists emphasized the importance of unity and resistance in fighting for women's rights. They called for solidarity across movements and generations, recognizing the intersectionality of gender justice with other struggles such as climate justice and peace. Feminist solidarity locates us in a framework of mutual support, said Sonia Gutierrez from the WINAC political movement in Guatemala. For the liberation of women, of the peoples who have been conquered, we must free ourselves from historical oppressions. The road to achieving such liberation lies in building a joint social movement representing the existing achievements of feminist struggles and built upon the solidarity and unity they already include. The French Eurometropolis of Strasbourg embarked in a unique experiment called Permesol, aimed at dismantling asphalt roads to allow nature to reclaim urban spaces. The project, which has already removed 6 hectares of roads, serves as a laboratory for researchers at the University of Strasbourg to assess its impact on biodiversity. While 2 hectares have been transformed into promenades, the remaining 4 are restricted to human traffic. Isabelle Cambrou, a researcher and professor of ecology at the University of Strasbourg, highlights the success of the project. Anything that was dead leaves or branches was put on the side with the bitumen there. We were able to bring back this organic matter that will allow us to recolonize the environment. Here we have ivy, here is anemone, there is wild garlic. Overall, it's the forest floor that's reclaiming its rights. Repermeabilization or renaturation could present an effective solution to mitigate the deleterious effects of land artificialization on biodiversity, with Strasbourg leading the way in its innovative approach. Friends, if you have good news from the current month, please send your stories to mexi@protonmail.com. Thank you to Javi for the positive news jams. Thank you to Cosmo for the positive leftist news background. Thank you to Mexican Catherine for scriptwriting and production. And thank you to me, yes, me, Tristan Johnson, for hosting and editing this video. If you'd like to support the show, please go to patreon.com/positiveleftistnews, or you can give us a one-time tip via PayPal. The link is in the description box below. Peace out.